Carlza, welcome back to our show. On the 15th of August, there's a big meeting expected. Russia is going to meet US. Donald Trump is to meet Vladimir Putin. What is on the table to discuss on this? What should we be looking out for? And what do you think can happen in between?
Well, I think there are some concrete things that both sides are looking for. Russia's aim is very clear. They want to make sure Ukraine will stay out of NATO. They want to guarantee that Ukraine will not be part of NATO and there will be no NATO troops on Ukrainian soil so close to the Russian border. I mean, this is the whole reason they launched the special military operation. They're not going to stop until they get that aim. And from US side, there's a strong faction within US that's arguing to make détente with Russia, especially they want to divert all the resources that's currently been pouring into Ukraine to wage its proxy war on Russia. They feel they need to pull back and get redirected toward Western Pacific to contain China, because now many of the elite in the U.S. security establishment has come to realize that China is their biggest competitor. China is the biggest competitor of the United States, and U.S. can no longer be the global hegemon that be at all place at all time. It has to conserve its energy. So there's a strong argument for pulling back both in Europe and also Middle East in order to concentrate resources to concentrate on containing China. So this is what they call a reverse Kissinger, right? And Kissinger, as people well know, he structured the deal that brought Nixon visit to China. And this, but the reverse Kissinger, the whole Nixon visit China happened under a very specific circumstance. That is, a Sino-Soviet split already happened. There was a border war between Soviet Union and China in 1969. That allowed Kissinger to come in and exploit the split and to bring about the rapprochement between China and US. Now, currently there is no Sino-Russian split. There's like the relationship is actually quite good. So there's nothing much for US to exploit. The idea that somehow US is gonna turn Russia against China, I think that's far-fetched, because China, there's no reason for a relationship between China and Russia to go south. Two sides have complementary economies. Russia is a main commodity exporter. China is a big market for them. China is a commodity consumer. So the two countries' economy are naturally complementary, and the relationship between China and Russia has its own dynamic that's outside of the relationship with U.S. And of course, we all know U.S. in the past decades have pushed these two countries closer and closer together, diplomatically, economically, and even militarily. But they th- that development also has its own momentum, because for Russia, its priority is still in Europe. It's still Ukraine. It's still number one focus. For China, its focus is in Western Pacific, is on Taiwan, is on South China Sea. So both sides want to have a nice, peaceful border. Because both sides, they have a very long border that was heavily militarized during the Cold War. Nobody wants to see a return to that. So that's why the hope of reverse Kissingering by U.S. national security establishment is unrealistic. Now, the real question is, would U.S. with the Donald Trump administration give Putin and Russia what they want, right? Which is the promise that Ukraine will stay out of NATO, um, will recognize the Russian territorial claims on the territory, especially the territory they already occupied. That is a that that is a big issue. Now we saw some signs, prior to this meeting, the NATO head person, well, nominally head person. We really know that the real brain of NATO is in Washington. But the NATO head person, Rudd, he said, oh, we could consider, to recognize that, some occupied Russian, Ukrainian territory by Russia could be, could that border could be finalized, could be, we can recognize the reality on the ground. I mean, this is already a big signal that, I think the signal was sending by Washington through NATO, through the mouth of Europeans to Russia. They're ready to compromise. They're ready to compromise on this issue. Uh, so far, leading up to this talk, Trump has been talking about raising. He's giving ultimatum to Russia. Or you have 50 days, 10 days to do what I want, or else I'm gonna increase sanctions. I'm gonna levy secondary sanction on Russian oil purchase, which really affects China and India because those two are the largest purchaser of Russian oil. And this is why uh, Trump is also putting the squeeze on India at the moment for their purchase of Russian oil. Um, and but that might just be a negotiation tactic by Trump because this is what Trump always do. He before he heads into a negotiation, well, according to the art of deal that he wrote, you got to raise the demand sky high, right, and then force your opponent to come to a position that's your real true intent somewhere along the line. Um, the real question is whether U.S. can recognize its strategic weakness in Europe, because the fact that they're even making those ultimatums to Russia, it's very ridiculous because Russia already has initiative on the battlefield. U.S. or Ukraine, they're not going to get on negotiation table what they could not win on the battlefield. So Russia has all the advantage. But on the other hand, it's conceivable Russia would also like to, if they could, if they could, if could win, um, if they could achieve their aim via negotiation, they probably would rather do that than drag on the war. So this meeting, I think it's the two. There will be a lot of testing of waters on both sides, and I'm pretty sure there's already a lot of negotiation already done beforehand, before the meeting of the two leaders. A lot of people don't realize a lot of these meetings, summit, are just PR exercises. A lot of the hard work has already been done by teams from both sides beforehand. So by the time they're ready to meet for the photo op, they already have some kind of joint announcement they could make to show progress. So I'm guessing there's already a lot of talks that has been going on. Now, the real question though is whatever Donald Trump promised, would Russia trust the US to deliver? So that is a $1 trillion question because for the past, Russia has been burned twice. First in the Minsk Agreement 1 and Minsk Agreement 2. And both cases, NATO and US used the opportunity to rearm Ukraine and to retrain and rearm Ukraine to prepare for the next bigger conflict. That's what Russia do not want to see. Russia do not want to see a simple frozen conflict and then just to allow a breather room for Ukraine so Ukraine can be resupplied, rearmed, and come back stronger. And so Russia, what really Russia wants is some guarantee from United States that this whole Ukraine issue get taken out of the table. This whole Ukraine NATO thing have to be taken off the table. Be some very strong guarantee. So I'm not sure if U.S. can make that guarantee, and even if they do, whether Russia could trust them on that. This is my reading, but anything can
This,
change.
yeah, this is what I was thinking. If we like sit both of them together on a table, sometimes it becomes a one. Do we have any details if there are gonna be any one-on-one meetings or with teams? Do we have any details on that? And what if
I
this
mean, I
happens? If both of them sit on the table alone, what do you speculate? Who's gonna be in charge? Who's gonna be like making the deals or turning the pages? Who's gonna be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, look. A lot of these things, you know, these the two top leaders. Their job is there to shake hands, to show up for the photo op. Bulk of the negotiation is actually done by their aides, by the negotiation team from both sides, and a lot of the groundwork has already been laid out leading up to the meeting. You know, like they because both sides, if the summit fails, if they don't have anything to show for, then both leaders will come out looking kind of rather foolish. It's like, why did we have this meeting? So usually, if they're gonna already agree, set a time and place to meet, that means both sides must have already have some concrete deals that was done under the table. So I don't expect. So what we're waiting for is for them to announce the deal, to make public what they're actually negotiating in secret. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm sure Trump, no matter what happens, Trump is gonna claim victory, and he's gonna claim he's a great peacemaker, and he will ask for the Nobel Peace Prize. So that's guaranteed. So I'm more interested to hear the Russia side, their press release afterwards, because both sides will release their, their side of the transcript. So I mean, I know what Trump is going to say. I'm more interested in to hear what Putin will have to say after the meeting.
Ukraine didn't sound happy when people were talking about giving up some of their land. How is this gonna turn out?
Well, I mean, Ukraine don't have much a choice. They are, unfortunately, they have been the pawn in this game, in this great game between the West and Russia, and the only way they can sustain this conflict is if they continue to continually receive aid from NATO. If NATO cuts off the money and the funding, it's done. It's over. They're not they don't have any hands to play in this. Unfortunately, this is like the um, what was recorded in history back in the time of the ancient Greece. When Athens were negotiating with the weaker city state. I think it was Melia, and the Athenians just says, strong will do whatever they please, and the weak must suffer what they must. So Ukraine is a weaker party. Nah, that they just don't have much choice in this matter.